Beautiful humans, happy Monday. Today we're having a premiere, first time in person.
Premiere.
So yeah, super excited to have Marc-John Brown with me here today and exploring the whole space of modern day shamanism and psychedelic facilitation. So yeah, Marc-John is a shamanic coach and mentor and educating future psychedelic space holders to do it really from a place of integrity and ethical ways of doing it. So first time I actually met you was here in Portobello in Edinburgh on the beach, and it was just this like moment when I really sensed this deep wisdom that Marc-John was having. And yeah, he's been in Peru for the last year, now back here, and really excited to getting into exploring that space with you. So if you maybe just want to unpack a little bit like what it is, how you're seeing what modern day shamanism is and the role that it has in society from your perspective.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, man. It's
You're welcome, brother.
a pleasure to be here with you all. And yeah, I guess first of all, I'll kind of just elaborate a little bit on what Toby said. That is that, yeah, I coach and mentor up and coming shamanic practitioners and future psychedelic space holders to work, in ways that are cross-culturally ethical, responsible, and done with integrity. In the middle of this psychedelic renaissance that we find ourselves in right now, it is the primary job of my brand, together with my wife, to make sure that the Indigenous voices are carried forward through this whole, ever-evolving growth in popularity that we are seeing with, psychedelic healing modalities and shamanism and Indigenous wisdom traditions. So yeah, in terms of the question that you asked me, modern shamanism, sometimes referred to as core shamanism, thanks to a man called Michael Harner. Sometimes referred to as universal shamanism. Sometimes, known more as universal shamanism, and this is thanks to Don Oscar Miro Quesada, a Peruvian medicine man. It is basically a hybrid mix of shamanic practices from all around the world, taken from multiple different indigenous wisdom traditions, earth-based wisdom traditions, brought together in a way that is kind of it maintains the essence of what shamanism is, and serves the needs of modern society in ways that are different and sometimes more effective and more fitting than what one single indigenous lineage may do, right? I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I remember like when I was meeting you on the promenade on the beach, and you were just going through these like different waves of processing energies, and I'm really curious because you just came back from Peru not too long ago. Just talk a bit more about like the experiences that you're having and how you're cultivating and really bringing forth these wisdom traditions into our Western society.
Yeah. So the meaning of shamanism, shamanism is in and of itself universal, right? But the word shaman or shamanism, it has its roots in Siberia and Mongolia. But of course, we've kind of appropriated that term just to kind of help us to encapsulate the entirety of what it is, right? And essentially what it is is to be able to access other realms of existence in order to bring balance and prosperity to this realm of existence, which is the human 3D, earth realm. And in doing so, yes, as you said, like there are different energies that you need to, be dealing with and kind of digesting and integrating and working through in order to come back to your own place of center, to be able to deliver the wisdom and the medicine and the goodness that all of these other realms have for these realms. Right now, I guess, you asked kind of what I'm processing right now. I'm only 1 month back from living, between the Peruvian Andes Mountains and the Peruvian Amazon jungle. Also having spent significant amounts of time traveling through the Amazon jungle by river in Peru and also in Colombia, spending time with the, traditional lineages up there in Colombia. What I'm processing now is just the stark difference in energy, between what happens in the jungle, the society over there, and what happens here. Digesting and integrating, as I said, and kind of finding my center in the middle of this. I essentially walk between different worlds, and that is essentially what a shaman, if that's what you want to call it, does, is walk between worlds and weave them together, right? And that is exactly what I'm doing. I help people. I help my clients to develop their own shamanic knowledge and shamanic practices by delivering to them knowledge of core shamanic practices that are common among pretty much all earth-based wisdom traditions. When it comes to the management of energies, the opening of sacred spaces, the opening of the sacred, the divine, the healing of energy, the movement of energy, the natural movement of energy in healing, working with the different directions, working with the medicine wheel, working with the elements. I help people kind of to develop those practices, and if they feel called to going deeper into service with psychedelic medicines, then to find that calling, nurture that calling, develop that calling, and then deliver it as a service to the world through ceremonial work in ways that are cross-culturally ethical, taking care of the world's living indigenous cultures, if their chosen psychedelic medicine comes from a living indigenous culture, teaching them how to work ethically in a cross-cultural way, making sure that the indigenous populations are taken care of, that the medicines are sourced sustainably, responsibly, and making sure that also there is not just a level of ethics between them and their clients and journeyers, but also between them and the spirits of the plants or mushrooms or shrubs or roots or whatever it is that they are working with, right? So that's what I bring to my clients.
It'd be interesting actually to hear a bit more like your personal journey like into that space before we unpack a bit more just the multitude of like medicines that is available. And I mean there's some, I would say, that are certainly more prominent now in the West. But then I'd be curious to hear also like all the other medicines that exist that you've discovered from people where you feel like that's potentially something that could really benefit actually our Western society as well.
I mean, if you have another 2 days, I will go through every single one of the medicines that I've discovered. But I guess I will kind of yeah, I guess, summarize my journey into, well, to get to where I am now, I guess. And of course, talking to, medicines that I have discovered that have kind of stuck out to me, I think that's probably the best way to approach that, because if I were to go into all the medicines that I know, it would take a long time. Yeah, I've been, walking this path now for 14 years. It's been since 2008, like August 2008 is when I kind of woke up to life's wonders. And that resulted in me, selling a hell of a lot of designer clothes and things of value, including a 100-liter backpack with which I, traveled to South America. Once I kind of had this awakening, Oscar, I took to the streets, sold all my kind of valuable things, and then ended up hitchhiking all the way through South America. This was when I was 19 years old, right? 19 years old. So I hitchhiked all the way through Chile and Bolivia into Peru, right? Hitchhiked. That took me like the best part of 6 months, something like that. But in the middle of all of this, one, I'd had a big, significant spiritual awakening whilst living in Argentina. Two, I was discovering plant medicines. Like I discovered the San Pedro cactus, the Huachuma cactus, which you're probably familiar with from the Andes Mountains. And in Bolivia and Peru, the notion, whilst in Argentina and Chile, the notion of the act of hitchhiking is quite normal, and trucks are modern, and truckers are kind of westernized and understand this notion of hitchhiking. In Bolivia and Peru, it's non-existent because, the poorest levels of society are so poor that they can't afford public transport. So what happens is, like construction trucks and kind of, industry trucks, they offer subsidized travel fees for the country's poorest populations, packing their trucks full of peasants, right? Yeah.
I mean, I've been there. Yeah, I've seen.
Yeah, yeah. But these peasants, peasants, if that's what we want to call them, they're all of the indigenous, populations. So I was traveling in the back of trucks with Quechua people and Aymara people through Bolivia and Peru. And this is where, that sacred soup of magic circumstances. One, I was having a spiritual awakening. Two, I was discovering cactuses like, Huachuma, San Pedro, and other psychedelic plant medicines, shortly after ayahuasca came into my space. And three, I was living shoulder to shoulder with indigenous populations and becoming fascinated by their languages and ways of seeing the world. And so that's what woke up the shamanic calling for me when I was 19 years old, hitchhiking through South America. Then I came home and I discovered the Edinburgh Shamanic Center with Claudio Gonsalves and Mark Halliday, and I studied with them. I've done their full 3-year to advanced shamanic practitioner training, but then I continued to be with them, spend time with them, train with them for the best part of 10 years. And Claudia actually is now the godmother of my daughter. And in the middle of all this time, we hitchhiked, myself and my wife, who is a native Peruvian, by the way. I met her once I entered Peru. We hitchhiked 3 times across Europe, just, in search of knowledge and wisdom. We traveled South Korea and spent time in a shamanic community in South Korea. We traveled through China. Didn't see too much in China, even though we were kind of praying to discover, wisdom traditions, but we didn't spend enough time there. And then we went to the Taman Negara rainforest in Malaysia, went and found the Batek tribe, and we spent some time with the Batek tribe and learned about all of their plants and how they work to remove spirit entities from people's energy bodies and other such things. And then we came back, and the year 2011, 2 years after working deeply with Huachuma, That's when I had my first yahe or ayahuasca ceremony with a Colombian medicine man, and that's where I got the calling first. I got the calling first towards ayahuasca. Ayahuasca told me, like, you're going to work with me, in very significant ways to help, heal this world. Okay. It took me a long time to answer that call, though. After all these discoveries, all these life experiences that I'm telling you about, I actually didn't answer that call until November 2019, which was when I first decided to go to the Amazon jungle of Peru and go deep with my chosen lineage, the Shipibo Conibo tribe. And I've been apprenticing with them now since November 2019, right? Which is what I was just doing in Peru, whilst running ayahuasca and plant medicine retreats, and whilst developing my coaching and mentoring practice, and helping clients. But yeah, in all of that process, what have I discovered? Salvia divinorum, Bufo alvarius, ayahuasca, wachuma, of course Cambo, and our own home medicine, psilocybin, cubensis, golden teachers, those are all psychedelic medicines. But then going deep with the Shipibo Conibo tribe taught me that when it comes to Shipibo Conibo ayahuasca healing, ayahuasca is only the tip of the iceberg. What feeds the power of a Shipibo Conibo curandero or medicine man in order to be able to conduct significant acts of healing inside an ayahuasca ceremony, it is the rest of that iceberg, right? Which is a plethora of different plants from the jungle, which have innumerous, infinite potential for healing emotions, broken heart, overactive mind, neurosis, psychosis, schizophrenia, joint problems, muscle problems, everything. So, and there's like thousands of those plants that feed into ayahuasca and feed the power of the medicine man who facilitates the ceremony, right? And one of those is actually one that I did want to have with me today is tobacco, mapacho, pure Amazonian tobacco.
So what's the effect of the tobacco? Like, what does it support the medicine man in doing?
It supports the medicine man in protecting the space energetically, in cleansing the space, or cleansing an energy body. Anytime I talk about a space,
it's like the smoke that he puts onto the person, or is it like...
So he will cleanse the energy body, and then protect the energy body and seal the energy body as well. And anytime I refer to a space, it can also be applied. What we're applying to space is also applied to the human, to the energy body, right? So to a space, I can cleanse and I can protect and I can positively charge and I can seal a space, but I can also do that with a human body, a human energy body. So that's what Mapacho helps the medicine man do. But also, he is together in the sacred pipe. He is the portal to the plant spirit world.
The tobacco is the portal.
And it is what helps through the sacred phenomenon that is osmosis, helps the visions come. So this is why during a diagnostic process, he is the tool for diagnosis as well. So during the process of diagnosis, he will blow smoke. So he'll blow smoke to cleanse, he'll blow smoke to protect, he'll blow smoke to seal, and he will blow smoke to see. Right? Each time it has a different prayer, it has a different request. So each time it fulfills a different role, right?
Absolutely,
And then, so when he is scanning the person's body with the tobacco, he's able to, through the visions that are manifest from the plant spirit world, through the sacred portal that is tobacco, he is able to see what is going on with the person's energy body. And that is the same thing that happens inside an Shipibo Kanibo ayahuasca ceremony, which is why they have the sacred act of humear, which means fumigating the ceremony space. So they will fumigate, like lots of tobacco smoke, all through the space, to one, cleanse and protect, but then also to be able to see clearly, to see the energy.
Interesting.
Yeah, but yeah, also during the process of doing a master plant diet, which is what I'm in the middle of doing right now, actually, it is through using tobacco and the tobacco pipe that I'm able to call on the spirit of the plant that I am doing a diet with, which is, I guess, taking it a little bit deeper.
It's really interesting to tell. Like, what you mean with like a master plan diet, and also like how these different medicines in a way kind of like interplay with each other. And I would also like to tap into just the act of ceremony, because I mean in the Western world, lots of people smoke.
Yes,
but it's a very different
way
experience, in a very different way, and a very different like intentionality.
Yes.
So maybe speaking towards the power of ceremony in connecting with these plants.
Yeah, of course. Well, you know, smoking tobacco in this way is absolutely an act of devotion, of prayer, of divination, of blessing. It is a ceremonial act, and it does not go past the throat. It does not go into the lungs. It is not inhaled ever.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Once it goes past the throat and into the lungs, once you actually inhale it, you are abusing the plant, and you know, everything, including alcohol, including coca, you know, everything in life is medicine until it's abused, and then it becomes a drug, right? So
Dude, this is I mean, honestly, my grandpa always had this saying, you know, like the dose makes the poison,
right?
And yeah, if
the dose and the way you take it and the intention, and the approach to it.
Because sort of like I feel maybe like 2 months ago we were at a festival, Emma and I, and when I was growing up, my dad was drinking quite a bit, and then at this festival I had this realization, like maybe he just wanted to show us like a different way of being, but like nobody sort of like understood that, and so it kind of like cut him some slack. I mean, I'm still kind of like so about it, but it's certainly. Yeah, let's speak more about the sort of like intentionality and the difference between connecting with it for the purpose of gaining insight versus like abusing and potentially kind of like checking out from life rather than leaning into life.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and I mean, this is, you know, that is using tobacco as a drug. You know, abusing. Yeah. Good questions I see coming in. We'll answer them in a little bit, right? First and foremost, you know, education is big. Like before this conversation, you didn't know those purposes that tobacco is used for, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So and now that you have that knowledge, with that knowledge, you know, you can, if you want to, if you choose to, you can then seek to develop a relationship with tobacco that's slightly different based on the knowledge that I've just passed on, right? Like, so that's like number one. And when we know these things, when we know the practices and the intentions, the intentionality with which we can approach the plant, then we are able to make the choice to do so, right? We're able to make the choice to do so. And it is very different. It is very different, especially when you choose to be open to the possibility of plants having a spirit and having consciousness. When you actively choose to step into seeking and invoking a relationship with that spirit, the energy changes completely. I mean, you know, I spend, well, especially right now during my diet process, my dieta process, I'm spending, you know, maybe 5-6 times per day on my balcony with my tobacco pipe. To people walking past in the street, it must just look like a guy sitting on a chair smoking a pipe, right? But not that it matters what other people think, right? But I'm spending 5 or 6 times a day with my tobacco pipe, in a deep sacred mindset, praying with my tobacco, right? It's a very different, because you in combination. I mean, tobacco smoke in and of itself is magical. Like, it's such a powerful plant. It's super, super powerful. And on the path of ayahuasca shamanism, there are so many plants that do not agree with each other, right? Like onions and garlic, you can't have when you're preparing to do ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And this plant won't agree with this plant, so you can't do a dieta with that plant until you've finished your dieta with that plant, right? Mapacho has nothing like that. Mapacho is known as the faithful friend of the path. Like, he has no enemies. He's like a dog, right? Like, super friendly, open, and just he complements and enhances the entire process. Tobacco is deeply, deeply sacred on this path. And so, to go into how they tie in with each other, when I'm 5-6 times a day on my balcony with my pipe, I am invoking the spirit, 1, of tobacco, 2, of ayahuasca, but 3, and most importantly, the plant with which I am doing a dieta. So I am using the tobacco as a sacred ally to muster and call the spirit of the master plant with which I'm doing dieta, so that master plant will come and fill me with its power. And with that power, inside an ayahuasca ceremony, I am able to perform acts of healing. Yeah, it's the plant power. This is what is known as vegetalismo. Yeah, plant spirit shamanism, different to modern shamanism or core shamanism or universal shamanism. They complement each other greatly, but this is specifically what I'm talking about right now. Is specifically Shipibo Konibo lineage practices, and so yeah, the ayahuasca, of course, does miraculous work for people's neurology, rewriting neural pathways. What the curandero or medicine man inside a ceremony has the capacity to do is alter the effects and the acts. Because let's just consider ayahuasca, all of the plants. Let's just consider them people, right? The plant people. So ayahuasca as a plant person is performing acts and behaving in certain ways, but the curandero, the medicine man, the holder of the space, is able to manipulate the behavior of the plant, right? Through making requests to the plant by way of the medicine songs that he sings. So if somebody is too far gone, the medicine man has the capacity to, if he's a maestro, maestro, not just anybody can do this, like if he's a maestro, if he's a master healer, he's able to go to that person and just sing a prayer that will bring the effect right down, or level it out, or raise it up if he needs to, right? Right. So and this comes from doing really good dietas, master plant dietas, with master plants, with the plant spirits that give the curanderos sufficient power and sufficient access and depth into the world of plant spirits, right? So much that ayahuasca now, with the level of depth that the curandero has into the world of plant spirits, gives that curandero enough access, enough relationship, enough connection to yield to him, to yield to his requests. But that is all gained through doing a master plant dieta with master plants. And master plants are plants that complement ayahuasca with certain powers, certain powers, certain qualities. They are plants that have benevolent spirits, that are that heal on a spiritual level, right? Mapacho tobacco is a master plant.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a huge topic. I mean, we could go down so many different avenues. So
maybe let's look at here a couple things. So one question from Christina is if you do ceremonies in Mexico.
Yeah, sometimes.
Awesome.
Yeah, peyote. I know peyote.
Yeah, do you want to speak to peyote for a moment before we get into the
Yeah, I don't have extensive amounts of experience with peyote, but I do have friends. I have made a point in my life of making significant levels of friendship among the world's indigenous populations, and I do have friends who are maracames. Maracame is the Huichol or Wirarrica indigenous people's kind of spiritual leader. So of the Huichol / Wirarrica, these are the indigenous people of the Sonoran Desert over in Mexico, and their spiritual leaders are called maracames. And yes, their primary medicine, which they go through the desert and fetch very regularly, is peyote. And peyote is super potent, done in a sort of similar way to San Pedro Huachuma, also a cactus, more a button-shaped cactus rather than the long kind of phallic shape that is San Pedro Huachuma. But they kind of they have similarities. They're cactuses. They are mescaline based rather than DMT based, and they are taken during the day generally, and they're taken with the eyes wide open, and it's much more of a kind of equally external experience as it is internal. Not saying that you don't go for sections of your peyote experience and you close your eyes and just connect with the medicine directly and with yourself and your higher self, but it is a very normal part of a peyote experience and also Huachuma experience to be eyes open, out, being able to interact with other people. Similar also to psilocybin mushrooms. That energy fits well with them. Peyote is a core part of the Wirarrica people of the Sonoran Desert in Mexico. And just a personal anecdote of when I was in Mexico, I was gearing up. I was like 2 days away from meeting my first maracame, my first Wirarrica shaman. 2 days away, and like I'm in Mexico. I'm in the what's it called? The jungle over there. Quintana Roo. I was there. I was like at a retreat center over there. I was waiting on the arrival of the maracame. And as I'm going to sleep at night and waking up in the morning and have like when I go for a shower in the morning, there's this like blue deer spirit just sitting in the corner of my room, right? I'm having a shower in the morning and I'm sensing this deer spirit in the corner of my room, like just like, okay, cool. Hello, deer, little bit of a greeting. Wasn't calling me or inviting me to do anything. It was just there. And I didn't really feel called to like open up a conversation with it or like, go a little bit deeper into inquiry as to who is this deer and why is he here. I was just cool with it. Like, okay, cool. Hello, greetings. As I was going to sleep, as I was waking up, as I was having a shower, it was just curious, right? It was like, this is interesting. But then 2 days later, when I met the maracame from the Huichol tribe, the Huichol people, I told him, like I was just in conversation with him, and I was like, by the way, maestro, or, I called him maestro, out of respect, right? And I told him, like, when I've been going to sleep, just for the past few days before you came, been going to sleep, waking up, having a shower, seeing this deer, and he's like, well, this is the primary spirit of our cosmology, and the spirit that we access through taking peyote. We are able to convene with this deer spirit, the guardian of our lands, through taking peyote. So he will just have been coming to say hello to you and kind of greet you and welcome you onto our lands. And yeah, a little personal anecdote from the world of peyote. But hey, apart from that, I can't pretend to have massive amounts of experience with peyote. Of course, I have danced the dance with the cactus a few times, but my studies have primarily been in the realms of psychedelics, with ayahuasca. I am an apprentice ayahuasquero with the Shipibo-Canibo tribe, and of course I spend significant amounts of time with the Colombians as well, and the Brazilians, but my apprenticeship in the depth of it is in vegetalismo, which is plant spirit shamanism, under apprenticeship with the Shipibo people. So yeah, I hope that was interesting enough and a good enough answer.
Let's actually tap into this one where questions around like trying to find a good shaman. What is hape for? Like, what's your experience with that?
Yeah, well, first of all, the way you pronounce it, hape, is how it's pronounced on the Brazilian side of the border. That right. The Brazilians call it hape. In Colombia and on the Spanish-speaking side of the border, it's rape. So, but I know that the most common way of saying it is hape, right? Porque así se fala no Brasil, né? That's the way it's said in Brazil. Yeah. Cool. Rape or hape. What is it for? Banishing Panema. Panema is what is known among the Brazilian tribes as bad energy. So like when you're feeling down and feeling depressed and feeling like, you know, you don't want to do this thing called life anymore. Let's face it, we all face those feelings sometimes, right? Rape is awesome for banishing all the Panema, all the bad vibes, you know, lifting our spirit into a higher level of awareness, presence, divinity also. Of course, rape has a spirit, right? And those who open themselves enough and deepen significantly are able to connect with the spirit of rape and, you know, allow the rape to really envelop their body and penetrate their body as it literally is doing. It's penetrating our body through our nostrils, right? It's tobacco snuff that is mixed with other plant mixtures, other tree barks. And yeah, it's medicinal, helps to balance the emotions, helps to heal the emotions, also helps to release the emotions, helps to align the chakras. It's super chakra aligning. Like, you know, I heard one American person describing the effect of rape, and they said, and I loved it. I thought that is an explanation I'm going to use for the rest of my life probably. They said it's like a linchpin penetrating one's crown and traversing the entirety of their spine, penetrating its way through the earth also. So from above all the way through our crown, through our spine into the earth, like a linchpin. You know, when I heard that description, I thought, that's, you know, a really good, accurate description of what I feel when I have rape, because I just feel like all of my chakras are like super aligned, you know, super straight. Sometimes with rape, it does take a little bit of a while to get to that place of feeling all of the chakras aligned, because first what rape can do to you, or hape can do to you, is kind of like splatter your energies everywhere, like and just make you feel like you're gonna be sick, you're gonna cry, you're gonna sweat, like have like super hot flushes, and, you know, cry lots and snort lots, and like just like splatter your energies everywhere and kind of disorient you and like make you weak and make you just feel like shit. But then in such a circumstance, the trick is to allow what is coming and find our center point with it. And once we find our center point with it, and we allow all of the really intense sensations to pass, then this feeling of chakra alignment comes, and there is no better medicine, for like gaining presence, meditating, eliminating unuseful, thought patterns. There's no better medicine than rapé, especially if you like don't have, 4 hours to do a ceremony and you only have like half an hour or 20 minutes. Like rapé is a perfect, little mini ceremony medicine that will just realign you. It just helps. It also helps clear the sinuses, clear the airways, get rid of impurities in the airways. It's tobacco based, right? Tobacco, and just like mapacho, just like when we do a vomitivo or a purge with tobacco, which does exist, by the way. We drink a 200 ml glass of tobacco sometimes to bring it all back up and just clear, the system out. But I say this because with all tobacco medicine products, the job is to go in, do the cleaning, then come out. That's the job of tobacco. In, out. In, out. Vomits, coughs, and blowing your nose. Same with the vomitivo, the purge. In, drink lots of water. Yeah, out. That's the way tobacco does its job. And rapé or hapé is definitely a tobacco-based, medicine. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that I can add to that. If that answers your question, I hope it does. But if you want to, maybe if it's brought something else up and you want to ask something else, feel free.
Yeah, it's interesting how you just described your experiences with like rapé or hapé. I first had it at a retreat, and very much like releasing the tears and just like melting the energies. And I'm actually like Emma gifted me a little like pipe and some beautiful
Kuripe.
Yeah, it's just so it inspires me because I'm going to Germany tomorrow, and so I feel I'm actually going to align before I go into this trip.
Yeah, and also perhaps when you arrive, because when we travel, the amount of energies that we subject ourselves to, conversations in the airport, little small space in the plane with people farting and burping and talking shit and thinking shit, a lot of the time, like we kind of, when we're open and sensitive, like probably everybody on this call is, because you probably wouldn't be here if you weren't like, spiritually open and, developing your sensitivity to energies. We can accumulate these energies, man. So something like rapé after arriving, before leaving and after arriving, it's good. Then a nice cold shower.
I love that. Implement this. The other thing I want to tap into is just speaking about like all the different kind of like layers. And I mean, when I've done plant medicine, I come out of it and feel like, okay, like what actually is reality?
Yes.
It's very much like reality
Existential crisis.
Like incredibly fickle. And so now you basically engaging with medicine like every single day, as it sounds. It's, can you describe what your experience of reality or like is? I mean, how do you perceive like the outside world? Do you see kind of like different realms, or do you see these different realms when you engage with the different medicines, or like what's?
Yeah, the medicines are absolutely a strong portal to the different realms, right? But also, I mean, you can do so intentionally by just closing your eyes and intentionally going to that place. Then things begin to open for you. But when we want to do it from a shamanic perspective, I hope you guys can hear me, by the way. This dog is blocking my audio pathway to the microphone. Like if you want to like really enhance from a shamanic perspective, if you want to enhance the opening of the realms, then make sure that you kind of open sacred space. And that doing so just really enhances your capacity to access different realms. But I mean, it's happening all the time, man, like Yeah, like I experience animals talking to me. I experience like numerology as well. Numbers communicate with me. Plants are like, the world is just alive around me. You know, this is how I experience it. And yeah, like, you know, before I came through the door to this, you know, to this beautiful home that we're sitting in right now. You know that I was in the sea, and you know, in the sea, you know, there's lots of different seaweeds, and I was just very present with it all, and just perceiving, you know, the messages, the communication that is everywhere. It's everywhere. You know, the entire world is constantly communicating with us. Everything is alive. Everything has consciousness. You know, we can kind of manipulate things with our consciousness, with our thought patterns, and that even goes for a fucking, you know, block of metal. You know, like might not be as easy to manipulate energetically as like a crystal or a stone, or you know, but it's still, you know, we can still change the energy of it with our own thoughts, with our own intentions, and that is kind of the way that I perceive things, I guess. Yeah, always dipping in and out. More recently, you know, through the process of doing a dieta with one specific plant that's called bobinsana, which is what I'm doing dieta with now, I've, you know, discovered even more spirits. Like, one of the spirits came specifically communicated to me that he was coming from the underworld up to kind of, you know, help me and give me specific gifts. And so yeah, I'm constantly, you know, every day moving between realms. In core shamanism, there are 3 worlds: the upper world, the middle world, the lower world. In Shipibo Koniwo shamanism, there are 4 worlds. There are Hakun Nete, which means good world, yeah, or beautiful world. There is a Nun Nete, which is our world. Then there is Hene Nete, which is, of course, that's an Amazon tradition, water world, so under the river. And there is a Banshi Nete, which is the complete opposite from Hakun Nete, where everything is the complete opposite of beautiful and pleasant and nice. It's a very gnarly, you know, kind of horrible, not nice world. But you know, there can always be drawn commonalities between the worlds of different cosmologies across the world, you know. And so yeah, I find my place in between these different cosmologies, right?
Yeah,
and yeah, and these are windows. Cosmology is a window through which spirits are able to communicate with us, and, you know, beings of other realms are able to communicate with us. Yeah.
So what comes through for me is like, what is healing to you? Like, when you speak about healing with plants, like, what actually happens in our beings?
It is simply the loosening up and lightening up and moving on of energy. That is healing. In its core, it is removing stagnant energy and helping it flow. That is healing.
So is then effectively the, let's say, when there's no healing needed any longer, is like when we're completely empty channels for the flow of life. Is that basically when the journey of healing has ended?
Well, when that becomes the case for the entire earth,
yeah,
then I'd say the journey of healing has ended. Because once we clear our channel enough, like for ourselves, then we begin to, you know, siphon and kind of channel and process and digest energies from the world around us, right?
Interesting.
So, and there's no separation really from that. Like, as much as we would love it,
just by default, like once your channel becomes more clear, you're processing all these other things.
Yeah, other people's stuff, the earth stuff, like, and I mean, you know, like look at the history of the earth, like how much pain and suffering and trauma and illness and disease and disgustingness do we have to kind of cleanse and heal? Like, we're in Scotland right now. How far back does Scotland's history go? And how much suffering and blood and guts and torture and like, and that is carried in our DNA as well, right? So on a spiritual level, with, you know, the memory of the earth, of the lands, which is a big part of shamanic practice as well. It's not just about working with humans, it's about working with animals, working with the land as well, spirits of the land. Once we have cleaned our own vessels, like, yeah, we got all of that too. Whether we like it or not, huh? Like,
yeah, no, it's so interesting, and it just reminds me sort of this like whole piece of almost like codependence. You know, it almost seems like there's people moving into each other, but then it's also like when you actually heal, then it comes from a place of like service.
Yeah, it's interdependence, interdependence and symbiosis, right? But the symbiosis, is like in many places and in many ways just now negative and not very pleasant because of the human ego, right? Because of what it has created,
I like that,
right?
yeah.
Symbiosis is real. Interdependence is real. I would say not so much codependence, but interdependence, also known as, or perhaps interchangeable with, symbiosis.
Yeah.
Like, and the symbiosis became toxic and shit and dense and not so nice, full of suffering and pain, and produced the need for healing because of, you know, the human shadow. Yeah.
This is really powerful, man. So as we're coming to the end, we're gonna step into this question from Christina. She's asking, are Icarus important during a ceremony?
Yes, they absolutely are. They are.
Do you want to explain first what Icarus are for anyone who doesn't know what it is?
Yeah, and Icarus is a divinely channeled medicine song that is sung inside an ayahuasca ceremony and has multiple purposes. So when I said earlier, a master healer can manipulate the level of psychedelic effect of ayahuasca to raise, lower, or level out the level of the drunkenness or psychedelic effect. How does he do that? He does that with an Icarus. That is done through Icarus. Icarus are prayers. It's through the Icarus that the requests are made. It's through the Icarus that the prayers are made, and prayers are healing. So when you know, like with core shamanism and with, you know, other shamanic like practices and lineages and traditions, there's quite a lot of like hands-on and you know, manipulation of energy and stuff. With Shipibo, the grand majority of their healing inside an ayahuasca ceremony is done without me even touching you, just singing to the spirit of the plant.
The vibration.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And you know, it is such an intrinsic part. You can't separate sound from ayahuasca healing. It's so intrinsic. And there's Icarus for healing, there's Icarus for emancipation, there's Icarus for prosperity, there's Icarus for protection, for everything, for literally everything. It is so intrinsic, sound and ayahuasca healing. It's so intrinsic that, you know, there is a center in Peru that is dedicated entirely to the scientific study of the relationship between plant spirit healing and sound. It's called Taki Wasi. Taki meaning song and Wasi meaning home in the Quechua language. So home of the song, right? It is so important that there is a center that dedicates all of its work basically to, you know, the study, the scientific research of the connection between Icarus and or sound and ayahuasca healing. So that's the long answer. The short answer is absolutely yes.
Amazing. So as we're coming to the end, man, how do people find more about your work and where do they connect with you?
You can connect with me On LinkedIn, I'm Marc-John Brown, Marc-John Brown. I think you've written my name in the...
I put it in the description there, so I think it's funny.
Probably my favorite at the moment is Instagram.com/Marc-John Brown without the hyphen, so Marcjohn Brown. And also on Facebook, facebook.com/Marc Marc John .Brown, BROWN. My website is marc-johnbrown.com. Reach out if you want to, connect. And I'm also, like I said, coaching and mentoring people who are feeling called to this work, want to go deeper. I'm actually going to take 3 of my mentoring clients later in the year down to the jungle to go deeper on their own plant spirit apprenticeship with my Shipibo Konibo Maestros as well. So if any of that calls to you, if you want to experience a retreat in the jungle with either the Shipibo Konibo or the Yawanawa of Brazil or the lineages of Colombia, that can be easily arranged. I think, reach
Amazing.
out.
Brother, thanks for being here. Thanks everyone for joining and asking questions, and being curious about what modern age shamanism can bring and how we can step into healing by connecting more powerfully with the plants. Alrighty, beautiful humans. See you next week. Lots of love.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here, man.